So, from the story of the leper from Matthew's point of view, I actually found some new things that struck me. And one was that the leper actually approached Jesus and knelt down before him. Now, this is interesting because lepers in those days weren't allowed, like I said the last time, weren't even allowed near people. But he approached Jesus. This just shows how approachable that he felt like Jesus was. He had probably heard about him and was like, oh, this guy heals lepers and you can actually go to him. I mean, add that to what I knew already, and Jesus even melts my heart even more. Now, uh, the, um, yesterday I spoke about how I thought that Jesus didn't want people to know about his miracles because of timing, but I got some new information since then and from reading this, which I'd like to share with you. So, the times when he told people not to tell anyone, he was actually in Jewish territory, and and I think that he needed to be careful and quite discreet in that territory, just because of one, the people's perception of who they felt the Messiah was, and then two, the Jewish people, the Roman occupants of the town too, also would see the Messiah as, someone that was trying to maybe cause trouble or something. So he had to be quite discreet with there. Yesterday we read about the woman at the well, and when she found out who the Messiah was, he allowed her to go and tell the whole town. Not only did she tell the whole town, he even ended up spending 2 days there with them. So this shows you that whole Jews versus Gentile. I also think that it has something to do with maybe even acceptance, right? Like the Gentiles were more accept, and he, to be honest, let's be honest, Jesus came for them, because his people had more or less kind of rejected him. Not like he threw them away after that, but the Gentiles were probably more receptive to his message, um, and and the things that he had come to say, and the fact that he was doing what he needed to do without inhibition in Gentile territory was quite telling. Now, there's even more. This was even more pronounced actually in the story of the um, the centurion, the Roman centurion. He was really, in actuality, was an oppressor of the Jews, if we call it, because as a centurion, his job there was to, overlook that, oversee that territory, and keep the peace, make sure that everything was going well in that time. But he recognizes Jesus's power and believed that he was able to heal, but not only to heal, but to heal with authority. Because remember, he said, you don't have to come, just say your word. So he had that great faith. And Jesus called out his great faith as well. And I'm sure the people weren't pleased, because if they were very displeased about him bringing up Naaman and the widow of Zarephath, how much more him saying, I haven't seen great faith in a Roman centurion. I'm sure they were there giving him the side eye all day, every day. But, he nevertheless, he still, recognized his faith and healed his servants with just his word. The story of Jesus calming the storm is a very popular one. I've heard that sermon preached from different angles, from the angle of peace and from the angle of faith and everything in between, But one thing that that came to me through listening, obviously, to the Bible recap, was it being shared that in that region, there was the east and the west side of that river, of that sea, lake of Galilee. And on the side that Jesus went to, there were pigs. And remember, pigs were considered unclean animals by Jews. So this actually showed two different sects of the Jewish people, like two different, types of Jews at the time, right? And he left the territory of the clean Jews to go to the territory of the unclean Jews to perform this miracle. And apparently they said storms were very common in that area, but then Jesus wasn't perturbed by it. I mean, I'm not saying, obviously the faith and the peace lessons from this are very, very vital, but then it also showed me like how far Jesus would go, to heal who he wanted to heal, or to do whatever he wanted to do. No storm, nothing would have kept him back, and that was actually really comforting to know. So obviously, with the demoniac, Matthew's account says that he healed two. We will read Luke's account in the future where it says one, it was one demoniac. But whatever the case, whatever the case, this miracle is one that is very significant. It's a very significant miracle, and I will speak more about it when we get to Luke's account. But here's what's worth noting from this: the demons knew who Jesus was, and that's not it. They also knew that they had a specific time. Remember that they said in 8:29, they asked if he had come to torture them before their appointed time. So they know, the enemy knows that there's an appointed time for judgment, right? And I thought this was very, very significant. So whatever it is that we're going through, whatever torment, whatever oppression, whatever it is, there is an appointed time where it will end. Now let me share my God lesson, what I learned about God from these chapters. Jesus offered his healing power to people who could offer him nothing. And in some instances, not even their faith. They couldn't offer him anything. He just did it. He healed them as a gift of his love. The centurion's servant didn't even know. He was just there quietly dying. And his master went to meet Jesus. He didn't even see Jesus, and he got healed. So nobody asked. It was his master's faith that healed him. But okay, you can say his master's faith. But then what of the demoniacs? They didn't even know. They didn't even have control of their faculties because they were oppressed, seriously oppressed by legions of demons. But Jesus went to look for them, went out of his way to look for them and healed them without them asking for anything. They were not even able to ask for his deliverance, but he did it. He went there for them, and he had a heart for the desperate and the helpless, and he was generous to them. How amazing is that? To just know that God is generous. And sometimes they say, oh, use your faith. Sometimes he doesn't even need your faith. He'll do it out of his love. How amazing is that to know? I hope this blesses you in some way and you're learning more and more about who Jesus is. And I hope that it's changing your perception and changing your life. Thank you for joining me today. I look forward to sharing with you again tomorrow. Have a wonderful day. God bless you.